Welcome to New York's number 2 sports show. The Rangers beat the Utah Hockey Club 5-3 to cap off a strong road trip where they pick up 5 of 6 points. They actually could have gotten all 6 if they were able to seal the deal against Colorado. But this game was really not easy at all. It was a very strong third period, and the first time this season that the Rangers won a game when trailing after 2 periods. They were 0-17-1 going in, and ironically, the 1 point that they got was an overtime loss to these Utah Hockey Club team, which was the second game of the season, the home opener. So, say what you will. Maybe this is the one team the Rangers have had the ability to have a comeback against, but give them credit for what was a strong third. Rangers didn't come out strong at all. A pretty poor first period. Back and forth, where the Rangers didn't take the lead until they made it 4-3. It was Utah up 1-0, 2-1, and 3-2. But the Rangers would fight back and they get a win they really desperately needed. And now they have to get to work. Now they'll head home, and 5 of the next 6 games are at home for the rest of the January schedule. And the next 4, really the next 3, though specifically, are against really key teams in the wild card race: Columbus, Montreal, Ottawa being the big ones, and then Philadelphia as well, who are right near where the Rangers are in the standings. So it's kind of make or break time, but at least they put themselves in a position where these games do feel like they are very meaningful, because it could have went a different direction. If the Rangers did not do well in this first half of January, then you're basically just getting ready to see what happens at the trade deadline. And that still is the case. But now there is, a pathway to potentially getting into the playoffs. Although they have their work cut out for them. They are 4-0-2 in their last 6 games, meaning that they've gotten a point in 6 straight. And they are 5-1-2 in their last 8 games. And that dates back to that win home against the Boston Bruins at the start of the 2025 calendar year. So this is a game against a Utah team that has really struggled at home. They have not been good lately. It seems like they've lost a lot of close games, and that kind of won out again here, where Utah just couldn't quite seal the deal. And Vejmelka, the goalie for Utah, who's actually had his best season of his career by a lot, I felt like he gave up some goals that were probably stoppable. As far as the Rangers lineup was concerned, going in, personnel wise, it was the same in terms of what the defensive pairs were and the forward lines. However, what I'll just bring up here before we get into the game was that got switched up somewhere in the second period, I'd say, where it begins is Matt Rempe was basically benched. I think he might have gotten 1 shift in the second period and none in the third. So that first off tells me, and it makes sense, that next game you would think that Jimmy Vesey or Johnny Brodzinski would replace Rempe in the lineup, right? So that's first things first. And we can assume that player likely, but not 100%, but likely would play with Carrick and Edstrom, and another, strong game for Sam Carrick. We'll talk about that. But what ends up happening is Rempe is benched. So you're kind of working with 11 forwards at this point. And really, here's how I would explain it, but even this comes with some caveats, is eventually what it mostly ends up being. The Trocheck line stays the same, right? Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere is the same basically the whole way through. They end up having Cooley play a lot of shifts with Carrick and Edstrom. And actually, when they were together, they were quite effective. I felt like Will Cooley was kind of at his best with them. Not to say that there weren't times, though, where like Will Cooley would take a shift elsewhere, but like that was mostly what I saw. Then from there, it would be Zibanejad with Smith and Kaliyev. So Kaliyev started out with Kreider and Hedl. Kaliyev actually scored his first goal as a Ranger in this game. But they did move him to play with Zibanejad and Smith, which actually was sensible. I did not like Zibanejad had a really bad game. Was, I thought, maybe one of the worst Rangers on the ice. But It was, again, I think moving Cooley, I don't know, that trio just doesn't seem to work. I'm not loving what I'm seeing, and I think Cooley, who's shown to be effective in other spots, I don't know, Cooley and Zibanejad just doesn't really seem to jive. So they end up putting, I think Smith moves over to the left side, Kaliyev goes in that line, so we saw a bunch of that, and then it kind of was a rotating right wing with Kreider and Hedel, and it was a mix, honestly. The whole way through, where at times I saw Lafreniere with them, um, maybe even Panarin. I think Panarin might have been with them as well. So, um, kind of shortening the bench a little bit. And we'll see what it means for next game. Again, what it tells me is that Rempe, I wouldn't be surprised if he's a healthy scratch. And you're going to see one of Veezy or Bradzinski, more likely Veezy, probably. And then from there, um, maybe a slight chance of line juggling, possibly. But either way, they're able to get the win here. Igor Shesterkin was fine. Wasn't bad, wasn't great. And, he was the reason why they lost against Colorado. A couple of weak goals late in that game. And in this one, doesn't get off to the greatest of starts, but did what he had to do. There was an empty net opportunity that he went for late, which is exciting in the moment. But then when he doesn't get it and it's an icing, it's kind of like, well, there is a risk that comes with that, especially in a 1-goal game. I have less of a problem with it in a 2-goal game. And in general, it's exciting. Don't get me wrong. Like I was, hoping it went in, but look, he has the liberty to do it. It didn't cost them. They still got the win, but not all goalies have the confidence that Igor does in that situation, but hopefully one day he'll score an empty net goal. So let's jump into it. Again, Rangers facing a struggling Utah team, but Utah is the one that gets on the board very early. And at 101, it's Matias Maccelli scoring a 6th goal of the season from Hayton and Cole. So 61 seconds in, Utah takes a 1-0 lead, and it's Zibanejad with a neutral zone turnover. It was a pass from Will Borgen, and, I put the blame on Mika there. There was enough time where he could have gotten rid of the puck, and he turns it over. And with Zibanejad, I've said it a million times, I noticed specifically, generally, he's not one that is really going to be known as a, relentless hard worker, right? That's never been Mika Zibanejad, but yet he's still been a very responsible player that can play on both sides of the puck. But what I noticed a lot is the beginning of games and the beginning of periods, specifically, Zibanejad just seems way off the mark. And that basically happened here. So not only do you get the neutral zone turnover, but then even when Utah is taking shots at Shesterkin, there's a rebound opportunity, and Zibanejad seemed like he was the nearest one to Maccelli, and there might have been a miscommunication between Zibanejad and Borgen, but it just didn't look good. And Keandre Miller was kind of in the vicinity, but again, I think, to me, I look at that goal and I pin it a lot on Zibanejad. And look, the Rangers won, so we don't have to play that blame game, but, just you can't have that, and it makes it 1-0 Utah right off the bat. So, but the Rangers are able to respond quickly. And at 3:42, Artemi Panarin scores his 18th goal of the season for Alexis Lafreniere. A rare Ranger goal where Vincent Trocheck puts a little bit of pressure on Sergachev, causes a turnover behind the net. Lafreniere quickly gets it, passes it to Panarin, who snaps it past Vejmelka. So that was, again, a very big goal to not have. The game never got out of hand for the Rangers. They didn't play a good first period. Honestly, Igor had to be at his best in the first, despite the fact he gave up 2 goals. Now, the next goal he gives up is another goal to Maccelli at 8:12, his 7th goal of the season from Hayton and Sergachev. And this was another goal where the Zibanejad line was on for. And, some good ozone time for Utah. And it's a situation where just a little bit weak in front by Zibanejad and Lindgren. So another goal like last game where Lindgren is beaten by the opposition, and is able to just stuff in the easy goal. you got to be strong in front of the net. You have to be and clear out, and that doesn't happen. So that makes it 2-1 right there. And Zibanejad was not quick enough. I think it might have been Hayton who got the original shot, and then Michelli beats Lindgren. So it makes it 2-1 Utah. But the Rangers tied up, and it's Arthur Kaliyev scoring his first goal as a Ranger, assisted by Hedel and Vakanainen with less than 4 minutes to go in the period. So it's a play, not a great goal allowed by Vejmelka in the sense that Hedel takes the shot and it kind of just squeaks by him, and Kaliyev and Kreider were both there to tap it in, but it's Kaliyev is the one that beats Kreider to it. And good to see him score his first goal. You can see potential with him, and they're giving him a chance. I don't know where it goes, but I'm fine with seeing where this is. Like, to me, there's enough. His resume is such that, like, I want to see where this can go. Could we be looking 2 months from now and it's like, okay, that was a 15, 20 game trial run that ends? Maybe. But, Kaliyev has done enough positives to this point that I'm very okay with him staying in the lineup. And so that line gets a goal. And Filipino, I think, good to see him like back in the lineup and not losing a step, because I know that's happened at times. He only missed a few games, but he still looks very noticeable out there, which is good. Ties it up at 2. However, Kaliyev does make a mistake at the end of the period, and he's called for a high sticking penalty at 19:22. And that does, unfortunately for the Rangers, there is repercussions there, as in the second period to start out with the power play, I guess, almost over at this point, probably less than 30 seconds or so on the power play. It's a goal by Logan Cooley, his 13th goal of the season, assisted by Keller and Schmaltz. And I just felt like in general, this goal was way too easy. Again, Zibanejad, Kreider, Miller, and Fox, to varying degrees, just kind of out for a skate. And, I just felt like the intensity wasn't there. Those are 4 players that honestly, at times, you can question, honestly, the motor. And so, yeah, I felt like Adam Fox's game was really off in this one. This was a bad game for Adam Fox. So as far as the defensemen were concerned, I was probably most upset with his play. I didn't like what I saw. He, turns the puck over on this goal. And again, Logan Cooley, makes it 3-2 Utah, 57 seconds into the second period. And, Rangers' second period was better than the first, but I still felt like the first 40 minutes in general were not up to snuff. And the problem with the second period is the power play. So first off, though, Reilly Smith slashes Nick Bukestad. I believe they were probably teammates back in Florida. At 3:29, Rangers kill it off. So the Ranger penalty kill, after allowing that goal to Logan Cooley, this one they kill off. And then the Rangers find themselves in a 5-on-3 situation. So at 5:39, Sergachev interferes with Will Borgen. Then at 6:25, Alex Kerfoot is called for delay of game. So it's 5-on-3. Now, what I'll say is, I think originally for the 5-on-4, it was everyone except Kreider, I think. The 5-on-3, though, Trocheck ends up being the odd man out, which, like I said last episode, the only ones that for absolute certain are going to be out there are Panarin and Fox. But I would probably say that Trocheck, to me, adds enough value, whether it be face-offs. Now, I know in a 5-on-3 situation, face-offs, they're more easy to win. You don't need, having the 2-man advantage. Typically, you'll win those. Not always, though. But I think that Trocheck, in terms of net front presence or as a bumper, in that bumper slot, gives you enough versatility that I like. I do probably want him out there almost every time. He wasn't, and they had Zibanejad, Kreider, and Lafreniere on for that one, and it was a very unsuccessful 5-on-3. The power play has definitely been very problematic lately, and it felt like they were maybe getting out of it a little bit when Kreider wasn't in there. Again, I don't feel great about a lot of them individually. Zibanejad, Lafreniere, Kreider, so I don't want to pin it on one person, but again, if I'm to draw a conclusion based on what I've seen lately, to me, Kreider would probably be the odd man out, but I also understand that if you wanted to go against that argument. I also get it. I can't die on that hill, considering again, like the past production of what Kreider's on the power play, and the fact that honestly, Zibanejad, like, and on this 5-on-3, at the end of it, he had a golden opportunity and he like fans on it. So it's like he was awfully frustrating in this game, definitely. So they don't score on that. Not a great omen. And then at the 20-minute mark, just a really seemingly poor call by the official. Alexi Lafreniere is called for cross-checking Ian Cole. Seemed like that probably shouldn't have been called. But they do call it. And the Rangers go into the third period down 3-2. And they were 0-17-1 when trailing going into the third period, in this game. But a major difference at the start of this third period compared to the start of the second period. At the start of the second period, with Kaliyev in the box, Utah gets a power play goal. In this case, it's the Rangers that get a shorthanded goal. And I guess it's almost like ball don't lie, where Lafreniere was kind of undeservedly called for a penalty, and the Rangers are the ones that end up scoring on the, shorthanded. And it's Reilly Smith who gets the goal, his 9th goal of the season from Schneider and Lindgren. So actually a pretty nice pass by Braden Schneider to set up Reilly Smith. And again, Vejmelka, not a great goal. It was deflected off of the stick up top of Sergachev. So kind of a little bit of a rough game for Sergachev, the former Tampa Bay Lightning defenseman. But Reilly Smith, like, I feel like sentiment on Reilly Smith would be different if the Rangers were doing better. Like, I feel while for him it's been far from Reilly Smith seasons of yesteryear with Vegas, I still see a player that like really does add a lot of value to a team. And like, he is a winning type player. The fact that he has such a big role, shorthanded is great. And, a nice shot, one that Vejmelka may want to have back, but to be fair to him, and goals 3 and 4 by the Rangers were kind of similar. It was kind of deflected off of his own guy. So it does kind of throw things off. But again, a nice little pass by Schneider, and Reilly Smith ties up. That was really big. 28 seconds into the third period, where Utah, in theory, has a chance to make it 4-2. Instead, it's 3-3. They needed that one. And then at 8:08, Valimaki trips Will Cooley. And this was a shift where Cooley was with Edstrom and Carrick, a hard-working shift that leads to that power play drawn. Again, you don't really see that for the Rangers much, at least not this season. But the Ranger power play does not score, and this is where it was Lafreniere who was the odd man out. So it was your traditional 5-man setup with Zibanejad, Kreider, Trocheck, Panarin, and Fox, which, again, I don't love the way that feels, because this game, if nothing else, was very pro Zibanejad power play wise. He was on in all situations each time through. And I don't know if we want to be setting that precedent. So Utah kills it off. And then the Rangers take the lead for the first time in the game at 10:22. It's Chris Kreider scoring his 14th goal of the season from Sam Carrick. So I think the reason why Kreider was on with Carrick and Edstrom this time was because I think that Will Cooley might have just previously been on the ice with the second unit, I think. That makes logical sense. The only reason I question is because Will Cooley hadn't been on the second unit with Arthur Kaliyev being in there and Hedl coming back and Kreider, that Cooley was kind of the odd man out. But I believe in this instance, I think he had been out there. And it's a face-off win by Carrick, clean, and Kreider is able to corral the puck off the faceoff, take a quick shot. This one is also deflected off of a Utah player, and it goes in past Vejmelka. Big goal for Chris Kreider. Needed as well. If not, like we've seen that from Kreider a lot, even in games. I thought that Kreider in this game, I thought that he was pretty good. I don't really have much of I can't think back to too many times that I was frustrated with him. The only thing, again, might have been on that power play goal by Utah, where I felt like he might have kind of been trying to go up the ice sooner than he needed to, but a huge goal for Kreider, and ends up being the game-winning goal to give the Rangers a 4-3 lead. And I just felt like in general it was a very strong period for the Rangers from start to finish. And like I said, there was that situation where Shesterkin had a chance at an empty net goal. It ends up being an icing. Sam Carrick also had another opportunity for an empty net goal. That ends up being an icing. And the Rangers do score an empty net goal. And it was Artemi Panarin, his second goal of the game, 19th goal of the season, assisted by Carrick. So 2 assists for him and Adam Fox. Not really sure why Fox, in seeing the replay, Fox barely seemed like he touched it. So I'm kind of a lucky assist for him, but he'll take it. And the Rangers kind of sealed with that 5-3 lead and win 5-3. What was interesting was that Panarin, who obviously is not someone you really went out there in defensive purposes, he has been out there in empty net scenarios. And so Ms. Cooley would have been the logical guy out there. They had just had Kreider, Zibanejad, and Smith out there for a while. And so you have Carrick, Trocheck, and Panarin. So I would have thought that based on the usage and, again, the penalty kill deployment and everything like that, that it would have been Cooley, but they go Panarin, and it does work out. And give Sam Carrick a lot of credit. Big face-off win to give the Rangers that 4-3 lead on the Kreider goal. Then there, Carrick made the play. Carrick is able to basically chip the puck to himself, make a nice pass to Panarin, who's going in wide alone on a breakaway for an empty net goal. So Carrick continues to produce. And it's been great to see. He really has been one of the more enjoyable players to watch lately. So a much needed, like I said, win for the Rangers. It's nice that they finally got a win when they were losing going into the third. Hopefully that can be a trend that can continue. But like I said, they have their work cut out for them. There's a lot of teams to jump. It's going to be tough, but now is really where it's make or break to me. Now, they could tread water. Look, it's not impossible they tread water here and kind of go average, and so that kind of keeps you going, right? Like, but if you do really well against, again, specifically these next 3 games, but I guess we'll say 3 to 4 games, if you can rack 6-7 points there, like in those next 4, then you're really right in business. If it goes the other way, though, and you're only able to scrunch up a point or 2, then, really your season is kind of at a spot where it's hard to be optimistic. So, the rest of this month, I think, is going to be telling for what is to come after the break. Because at that point, you're going to have a lot more important. I guess I'll say this. There's a lot more important games as well at the start of February. I think there's 2 with the Bruins who are right in the playoff hunt. Pittsburgh's kind of falling out of it a little bit. I think there's a game against Pittsburgh. So I think actually Columbus is the last game before the break. So these next 10 to 12 games are going to give you basically a look to see what the plan will be for the Rangers. And I still think that I don't see the Rangers really being buyers. You can't rule that out, but I think that I hope that they play this in a smart way where you can still maybe make smart, savvy trades and still contend for a playoff spot. But I'm certainly not getting rid of any key future assets, young players, draft picks. I have not seen enough from this team that shows me that they deserve that yet. But all it would take is a nice stretch here, and then you can go back on and say, hey, look, this was a team that last year won the President's Trophy. You could start maybe convincing me of that. But while this is a step in the right direction, I like what I saw and have seen, generally speaking, the last 2 games, although this Utah game had its kind of flaws. They look better. They look more competent. They are hanging in there, playing close games. And so now you're basically going to be playing against teams that are trying to make the playoffs for the first time in a while. Think about it. I mean, Columbus, Montreal, Ottawa. These are teams that have not seen playoffs for quite some time. Honestly, the last 5, 6, 7 years, like it's been a while since these teams, and again, that's not exact. In the case of Ottawa, I think it actually is. I don't think they've made it since 2017. But it's been very sparse as well for Columbus and Montreal. So they're hungry, playing really well, and are confident. And the Rangers are kind of one of the few teams down at the bottom that is a team that probably one of the top 6 teams in the playoffs. You probably wouldn't want to see the Rangers. You'd rather take a chance on sort of a green and fresh young and inexperienced Montreal Canadian or Columbus Blue Jacket team. And that's no offense to them. I'm just saying in the long run, with Igor Shesterkin doing what he does in the playoffs and this and that, I think the Rangers loom as a team that could be dangerous if they can find themselves. It's a huge question mark, and I'm very curious to see if they will do that. And they will head home having won 4 of their last 6, getting points in 6 straight games, 5-1-2 in their last 8, now above 500 for the first time in a little bit, 21-20-3. And it's going to start out with a Saturday night game at Madison Square Garden against the Columbus Blue Jackets.